All right, hey people, today is May 28th, 2022. I'm Chris Lucas. This is my show, The Protestant View, or Fishing for Truth. Um, and hey, right off the bat, I'm not streaming to Chris Lucas live shows and call-ins anymore because it got a strike. I get one more strike, I just lose all my content anyway. So I just moved it all. So I'm just doing it off of the Protestant View now. So if you want to watch the show on YouTube, go to the Protestant View. I kind of don't really care about my YouTube channels because it takes up too much of my time. You know, it's a waste of time to stream over there. You get, because anyone that tries to give you some real truth over there, they get banned. They'll let people talk anything that has to do with keeping the whole Catholic deception going. It's like, yeah, you can talk. Some people can get away with talking about vaccines and things like that over there because heck, they're telling you the Pope's not the Antichrist. So of course, you know, they'll let those people talk. But see, if you connect all those dots together, you're not going to get to talk on YouTube. They will not allow it. And it's just frustrating. I literally wasted about a half hour of time just trying to tell people, hey, I'm not streaming over there, you know. And it's just a setback. It eats into my preparation. And because, you know, I'm a guy that works 70 hours a week. You know, I work 70 hours a week, really hard to, you know, I don't have a lot of extra time to waste, you know, with this whole YouTube stuff. I may just start making shows not even on YouTube and just telling people, hey, go to Odyssey, go to Rumble, and I don't, and that's it, you know. It's, you know, maybe I just give you like a little heads up, hey, I'm going to be streaming over there, and that's it. So okay, my Rumble just did not work, which I don't know why. Why isn't my Rumble working? Um, so I'm sorry, more issues. Hold on a second. Let me fix something. Sorry, people. Another issue just pops up, man. That's what happens when I got all. Man, I am really sorry. I'm trying to make sure things. Hopefully that fixed everything. I'm sorry. Technical difficulty. So hopefully I'm streaming on Rumble now. And well, another issue. I don't know, man, with Rumble. I'm sorry. It should have worked. It's not working. It's really frustrating. Okay, so I'm really having a frustrating day today. Um anyway, dude, this is horrible because I'm trying to make the show rewatchable and replayable. So anyway, let me just kind of get to this point. Man. And that's what happens, I guess, when you just don't, everything's free, right? It's a free show. And for whatever reason, you got all these people running churches that can't teach you truth, because I've been to them for over 30 years, 40 years of going to churches. And why wasn't I ever taught any of this stuff? Biblically, it's like, well, anyway, let me just start off by saying, about the papacy. It is the Antichrist. It's the second beast of Revelation that comes out of the earth. If you read later in Revelation, you have this vine that comes out of the earth, which gets thrown into the winepress of the wrath of God. And I believe those two things, the earth beast and the vine that comes from the earth that's thrown into the winepress of the wrath of God, are all connected together. That's why I think the second earth beast, it cannot be America. So you don't have to worry about running and like, oh my gosh, I better get rid of my American citizenship. Like the Seventh-day Adventists tell you, like they'll be like, oh my God, I can't be an American because that's the second beast and it comes from the earth. And if it comes from the earth and I'm part of that vine gets thrown into the winepress of the wrath of God, right? So I gotta get rid of my American citizenship. I mean, you see how like just dumb that sounds, like how unbiblical that sounds, that you got to get rid of your American citizenship because it's part of the second beast. So therefore, wouldn't you be part of the beast? That's why it's not talking about America. And just so you understand where I'm coming from, Jesus is the true vine. So in John 15, let me just read this real quick. It's probably not the version of the Bible I care for. I'm just kind of randomly, I'm not going to be able to tolerate that. Well, it says, I am the true vine. So Jesus is saying, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. I'm not sure if that's what version of the Bible this is. It doesn't say up on the screen. But the point of it is, I am the true vine, Jesus is saying. That means Jesus is from heaven, so he is the vine from heaven. Okay? So now I'm going to type in winepress of the wrath of God. So that's in Revelation 14, 17 through 20. No, hold on. That's not the exact verse I'm looking for. Maybe vine of the earth is why I should put vine of the earth. So we'll just go with the King James Version. And the angel thrust his sickle into the earth and gathered the vine of the earth and cast it into the great winepress of the wrath of God. So basically, my whole thinking is there's this heavenly vine that you want to be grafted into, be part of. Then you got this earth vine. And if you're part of it in any way, you get thrown into the great winepress of the wrath of God. Now, maybe my theology is off. I don't know. Someone point that out to me. But that's why I just think, the earth beast being America, It does not make no sense. You can kind of bend the Bible a bit to make it look good, but I think a lot of your theology starts to fall apart. And now, if you just keep it simple like that, then you can just be like, Second Thessalonians. Um, I'm just gonna go to Second Thessalonians because now it's like people go, okay, you also got these people that are talking about a restrainer. Um, and they get that verse from like I think it's like what is it in the King James version? I think when they say "what withholdeth," or they say restrains. Um, Let me make sure. Because see, I go by the Geneva Bible version just because I like the footnotes in it. I think the footnotes keep you on path. I do not know a single person who reads the 1599 Geneva Bible with the footnotes that believes in like a future Antichrist. They don't misinterpret Daniel 9:27 as being about the Antichrist. They don't misquote the Bible. I think it's either Daniel 7 or 8, where they use verses from there talking about a future Antichrist when it has to do with past events. Daniel chapter 11, they use that for future events when a lot of that's about the past, and it's like, but that doesn't go on if you read the Geneva 15, the 1599 Geneva Bible. It only goes on when you do that whole King James only. And I know a lot of people, they're King James only, and their theology is still a mess. So, I mean, I guess for me, just because the 1599 Geneva Bible woke me up to about how much deception's going on in the world, I'm more partial to it. Because I believe that a lot of people, they don't know much history. I think a lot of people are pretty dumb, to be honest. I mean, if you want to be real honest, most people out there do not know their history. They do not know much about Rome and things like that. They don't know all these little details. All those little details are in those footnotes in the Geneva 1599 Bible, which helps you to understand what the scripture is actually saying. And when you remove understanding, you start to corrupt the interpretation of the English verses you're reading. So I'm just saying, just pointing that out, and you got to remember those guys. They also knew the poetic meaning of Hebrew. They also knew the any kind of like poetic meanings of Greek. And you got to think about words. Certain words mean certain things over time. Like the meanings change. You might say one word today that meant something totally different 200 years ago. And if I try to use that same meaning it meant 200 years ago to today, people would misinterpret that. If I tried to go back in time and I use that word that way 200 years ago, it would mean something different. And so I also think, here's these people, they studied Greek, Hebrew, and 20 other languages. Some of them could speak 7 to 20 different languages. And he helped, interpret the Bible. And I think some of those footnotes were also things that get lost in translation. I don't know if there was perfect translations from Greek to English and from Hebrew to English. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying they're 100% right or infallible or that those footnotes are infallible, scripture. But what I'm saying is it's a good place to start. And like start from like these learned men's understanding and then compare it to what your church is teaching you, what these YouTube people are teaching you. And remember, God says he's leaving there's a remnant that remains on earth of believers, right? But remnant, look it up. It means trace amount. If I tell you, if someone's like you're, maybe you're drinking something, you got just a little bit left. You go, well, I got a drink left, here, and someone needs something to wash their food down with, and you're like, well, here, I got a drink left. But if you're like, I got a trace amount, it's, hey, I just got a trace amount for you, but here you go. a trace amount might mean that's not even enough to wash your food down. That's just a taste. And I think that's really, when God says there's a remnant, I wouldn't think just because, there's a million people believing the same thing as me that I'm safe. You might be like, oh, there's 8 billion people in the world almost, and there's just a million believing it. Okay, you might know the truth. It might be even less than that, though, than actually acknowledge the real truth and what the Bible's actually saying. Got to keep that in mind. Jesus said, narrow is the way and few find it. And if narrow is the way, well, if you see a lot of people going a certain direction, like the Catholic Church and all these ecumenical churches joining into them, maybe that's not the way to go. Maybe if people are teaching, Daniel 9:27 is about a future Antichrist, and it's not about Jesus Christ. And you see almost all the churches teaching that. Maybe that's not the way to go. Maybe you need to second guess that one. It's like, am I really interpreting it right? And right up here, got something off of, Bible.ca, because I kind of, this is more of the topic I wanted to get into. I do want to touch on things like, carbon footprints. What else was there? There was, I had it all. Oh, I got it up on another tab. I had so many issues today, but this NTI, nuclear threat initiative with the monkeypox, just wanting to bring that up to people's attention. I don't want to talk about it too much on YouTube. You know what? Who cares? Who cares if I lose another channel? All right. But I just kind of want people to be aware of these things. And it's got this PDF that you can download on this subject. And when you download it, you go down to like page 10. Or is it page 10? Just for people who don't know about that, this is something that was, predicted. Well, not predicted. I shouldn't say predicted. But basically, they did this little exercise. And they said, hey, what was it, about like a year ago? They did this exercise. And they said, hey, there could be like this attack where, monkeypox is released. And it starts on May 15th. And, they got like the move one scenario. Just kind of blow it up a little bit so people can see. And then it's like by May 10th, 2023, next year, about the same time, there is going to be 27 million deaths. So, I just kind of want to bring that to people's attention just in case they didn't hear about this. And I put the notes in my show. I thought this was a pretty good show too. It's a Seventh-day Adventist show, and that's kind of what I was listening to a little bit while I was setting up, and I wanted to see what they had to say about this whole Vatican says Catholic Church is implementing Davos, carbon tractor, Great Reset, Battle of Armageddon. I think this, this Seventh-day Adventist channel has like a lot of interesting info. But they really don't like me saying that the Earth Beast is not the papacy. They really believe it's got to agree with Ellen White or there's something wrong. But anyway, let me get back to this whole 70 weeks of Daniel. So 70 weeks of Daniel, we see that now this. A lot of people, it kind of varies. You know what? Let me kind of eliminate my face out of here so I can blow this up better for people. But anyway, 70 weeks of Daniel. Some people, their times vary a little bit. They get 457, but it's still right in the right ballpark, about a year. Like I've seen these same calendars vary about a year. So all these days, like Like I thought the Messianic window opened up at 27 AD, and I thought this would be 457 BC. So some of the calendars I've been studying say something different. I'm just using this one because I don't think it's a big deal being 1 year off. You just got to remember that if you're viewing different people's charts, it could be a year different, depending on, when they think Artaxerxes basically gave that whole, I don't know what they call it, basically that proclamation to start rebuilding the temple. And anyway, so if you see here, and I saw someone recently doing a video, and they it looked like they were really struggling with reading the Bible because they were trying to say, Daniel 9:27 is talking about the Antichrist, and as they're reading it, they're like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense to me. Well, the reason why it wasn't making sense to you was you were trying, like, that's not what the scripture really says. And you could just watch their wheels turning as they kept reading it over and over again. And it's like, all right, what? Okay, but let me kind of throw this at you. If you start there, you got the 70 weeks of Daniel, okay, which is supposed to be 77s, right? So it's actually doing the whole day for a year, biblical counting. So when it says 77s, it's 490 years, not days. It's 490 years. And almost even the people that believe in a future Antichrist will say that it means that much, right? But they believe that instead of Jesus fulfilling this part right over here at the end in AD 33, they believe that this week stops right about here where that cross is. Well, actually, right before that cross. Well, hold on, wait a minute. Actually, right here. I'm sorry. AD 26. They believe it stops right here. AD 26, 27. Oops. I did not mean to do that. So anyway, they believe it stops right here at AD 26, and that these 7 weeks right here, these 7 years are thrown way into the future. Whereas if you really look at it, here's your 483rd year. So you got 7 years left. And right here is like when Jesus starts his ministry. And wait a minute, I really think this looks off to me for some reason. Because it should be right here. Oh, wait a minute. I see. I think what they're... Well, I'm really kind of confused about this chart. This was a bad chart for me to bring up. I thought I could just kind of bring up someone's random chart, but the way I had it counted was that Jesus dies in the middle of the week, according to the chart I was seeing. Man, I got to get a different one. This one's not going to work for me. I do need that info, though. But basically, if you count up the time from when Artaxerxes made that decree till the time Jesus gets crucified, you get that right there in the midst of the week. And then from there, let's see here. I kind of wrote down some notes. But anyway, if you just start Jesus's ministry, that last 7 years, well, I probably should type historicism. Man, I need to be better prepared. I did not think it was going to be this hard. If I normally I can just pop that up. But that's real frustrating. I do know a video. I should put that in there. Okay, this looks like it's closer to what I'm looking for. Man. Okay. Well, this looks like some Seventh-day Adventist thing because I see 230-day prophecy of Daniel, which I don't kind of buy into. But it still gives me, at least it's giving me the right numbers, because it's like so the decree to rebuild Jerusalem is in 457 BC by Artaxerxes. Then you got the baptism of Jesus in 27 AD, and about 3.5 years later, got the crucifixion. Then 3.5 years after that, got Stephen, who's stoned, who was the first martyr that died in the church. So, and if you notice, like Stephen, when he gets stoned, there's a lot of things about him that mimic exactly what was going on with Jesus right before Jesus got crucified. He even said not to lay this sin upon those people. Just kind of like Jesus said, Father, forgive them; they know not what they do. But you can see right here's your 7 years that you're waiting for the future to come. And when you're reading all that stuff in Daniel 9, let's see here, Daniel 9. So I'm just going to kind of skip down to those verses and read those verses. It says 70. So Daniel chapter 9, verse 24, 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the wickedness and to seal up the sins and to reconcile the iniquity and to bring an everlasting righteousness and to seal up the vision and prophecy and to anoint the most holy. So did that happen from that decree of Artaxerxes? And 70 weeks later, so 490 years later, when we're looking at this, 490 years later, did that happen? Yeah, right there, right in the midst of the week, the middle of the week. And it doesn't have to be exactly in the middle, because midst means in just within this here and here. So as long as it's between 2 points, it's in the midst of those 2 points. So you don't have to worry about, was it exactly, 3.5 years? To the day, to the minute, to the hour, So don't get stuck on that. It just says in the midst. So know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to bring again the people and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks, and the street shall be built again, and the wall even in a troublous time. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be slain, and shall have nothing, and the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the battle it shall be destroyed by desolations. And if you look at how horrible that, when the Romans destroy that temple, and will destroy Jerusalem, it was bad. It was pretty bad. Even like Josephus said it was. I think it was Josephus, if I'm not mistaken, who did a recording of historical recording of it and said it was like a judgment of their God, because the Jews were. I think, weren't they eating like their own children and things like that because they were starving, because some of the priests decided to destroy the food, and because they were trying to, I guess, make them fight, and it caused a famine within their own walls. But anyway, it says, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. So up here we just saw that it said Messiah shall be slain, and he shall confirm a covenant with the many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease, because, hey, he died for your sins. You don't need to do it. And for the overspreading of the abominations. And actually, when the temple curtain was torn, they should have stopped there. And for the overspreading of the abominations, he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation determined shall be poured out upon the desolate. Now, if you notice here, it doesn't have to happen at the end of the 7 weeks. It just says in the middle of this 1 week, this 7-year period of time, which I showed you on that chart. Jesus looks like he fit that, it got that smack dab. And nowhere else in the Bible do you see a prophecy like if I said, hey, you're going to be a millionaire in 490 seconds, or you're going to get $1,000 and within 490 seconds, and you wait later, and you're like, okay, Chris, it's been an hour, and I still haven't seen $1,000 or $10,000, whatever you said you were going to give me, or whatever you said someone was going to give me. I'm like, well, no, that's 7 seconds. That's future. You'd be like, what? And it's the same in the Bible. It's like, you don't do that. But there's so many people that try so hard to want to do that because they want to make this out to be the Antichrist, and they got some false theology, and they're using this false theology to cover up for the Catholic Church. Because why do they want to cover up for the Catholic Church? Well, hey, you can join the Catholic Church with abortion, and you can fight abortion with them, fight mandates with them. It's okay if Trump nominates nothing but Catholics, because, heck, we're trying to fight something worse. We're trying to fight a lesser evil. But when you realize the Catholic Church is the church of the Antichrist, you got to start to think, why? Why am I joining this Antichrist system to fight pedophilia? Why am I joining this Antichrist system to fight mandates? Why am I joining this Antichrist system to fight all these other things like communism and stuff? It's like you just don't join the devil to fight these things, and then you wonder why you lose. So that's why I go over these things. This is important. But this scripture is twisted. It basically, by twisting it and saying this is about the Antichrist, well, you're denying Jesus fulfilled scripture and took away those sins. And it's like, isn't that kind of like denying Jesus came in the flesh? All right? Because if he didn't come in flesh, if Messiah didn't come and take away your sins, isn't that like Antichrist? So this is all got hints of Antichrist in it, this bad doctrine. So when you think about it that way, when you go, and he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of the abominations he shall make it desolate. Well, right here, there's no time period. It doesn't say, hey, right at the end of 7 weeks. No, it just says, and for the overspreading of abominations. So after he calls the sacrifice and oblation to cease, if you're still sacrificing animals and things like that, which they were trying to do, he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation determined shall be poured out upon the desolate. And to me, that's what happened when the Roman army, I can't think of it right off the top of my head. Yeah, Titus came and destroyed both the temple and the people. And see, that's all these notes. These were written way back, before the 1600s. And this is what earlier Christians even taught. And I'm going to show that too. Earlier Christians, I got this source up here. But yeah, here's all these quotes, from got 225 AD, origin, the weeks of the years, also which the prophet Daniel had predicted, extending to the leadership of Christ, have been fulfilled. Okay. Now, you don't have to think all these people were godly, but I'm just pointing out that, or you might not think, oh, they weren't the best Christians or whatever. I'm just saying that this was pretty much accepted that it was fulfilled. 160 AD, Clement of Alexandria said 160 AD, Clement of Alexandria, Cyrus had by proclamation previously enjoined the restoration of the Hebrews, and his promise being accomplished in the time of Darius, the feast of the dedication was held, as also was the Feast of Tabernacles, and they were all taking in the duration of the captivity down to the restoration of the people from the birth of Moses, 1,150 years, 6 months and 10 days, and from the reign of David, according to some, 452, more correctly, 572 years, 6 months and 10 days, and from the captivity of Babylon, which took place in the time of Jeremiah the prophet, was fulfilled what was spoken by Daniel the prophet as follows: 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression, and to seal sins, and to wipe out and make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in an everlasting righteousness, and to seal the vision of the prophet, and to anoint the Holy of Holies. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the word commanding an answer to be given, and Jerusalem to be built to Christ the Prince, are 70 weeks, and are 7 weeks and 62 weeks, and the street shall be built again, and the wall, and the time shall be expended. And after 62 weeks, the anointing shall be overthrown, and the judgment shall not be in him, and he shall destroy the city and the sanctuary along with the coming prince, and they shall just be destroyed in a flood, meaning the Roman army. And to end the war, and to the end of the war shall be cut off by desolations, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the middle of the week the sacrifice and oblation shall be taken away, and in the holy place shall be abomination and desolation, until the consummation of the time shall the consummation be assigned for desolation. And in the midst of the week he shall make the incense of sacrifice cease, and the wing of destruction, even until consummation, like the destruction of the oblation. That the temple was accordingly built in 7 weeks is evident, for it was written in Esdras, and thus Christ became King of the Jews, reigning in Jerusalem in that fulfillment of the 7 weeks. And in the 60 and 2 weeks, the whole of Judea was quiet and without wars. And Christ our Lord, the Holy of Holies, having come and fulfilled the vision of the prophecy, was anointed in his flesh by the Holy Spirit of his Father in those 60 and 2 weeks, as the prophet said. And in the 1 week was he Lord. The half of the week Nero held sway, and in the holy city of Jerusalem placed the abomination. And in the half a week he was taken away, and Otho and Galba and Vitellius. Let me kind of just skip down to, because I put this in the show notes anyway. People can go and read it, probably get more out of it. But I'm just kind of basically, I just want to read a couple of these things, these older writings, just so people know historically they believe Daniel 7 already been fulfilled, and that's my biggest point. And all these teachings that you see about futurism and everything, it all comes from Jesuits. If you just type in Jesuit futurism, you can find plenty of stuff on the net, on the web. Here we got, just even Wikipedia. Francisco Ribera was a Spanish Jesuit theologian and identified with futurist Christian ecological view. So yeah, when your Sunday preacher is teaching all this futurism stuff that came from the Jesuits, what were the Jesuits doing? Counter-Reformation. The only reason why they even came about was to counter the Reformation. So they started writing all this doctrine that no one believed, and eventually people started to believe it and talk about it about 150, 200 years ago. Then this started getting more and more popular. It took a while for it to get popular. Like, no one thought nothing of it at first. And then about 200 years later, in the 1800s, it started starting to get in popularity. And it's kind of weird. Like, the 1800s is when all these like false religions seem to really just kind of blow up on the scene, like Mormonism and many others just start flooding. But anyway, and that's about when futurism started coming about. And you can go read the works of like E.B. Elliott, Grattan Guinness, Paul Morrow, and just a few other people from earlier times. James Aitken Wylie. You won't find them teaching that. And those were your most respected theologians. But anyway, so I'm just going to kind of move on from that subject, get to other things. I had to kind of regroup a little bit. Oh yeah, here's one too. A person could not become a rabbi until he was 30, and or a priest. Where does it say at? I'm just kind of looking at a random article I found because it had the quotations. Why? Okay, somehow it moved from where I had it saved at. But it says the Bible says that a priest had to be 30 years old before he took up the mature senior office of priest. From 30 years old and above, even to 50 years old. And then, Luke 3:21 says Jesus himself began to be about 30 years of age. All right, so that's when he started his ministry, and it really fits into that whole Daniel's 70th week. But anyway, let me. So I saw this whole individual carbon footprint tracker, Alibaba president at World Economic Forum 2022 says carbon footprint trackers are another tool in unelected globalist social credit system perspective. I got the link for this in the show notes, at least on Odyssey and Rumble. Yeah, forget get Rumble to work. But it says we're developing through technology and ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. That's where they're traveling, how they are traveling, and what they are eating, what they are consuming on the platform. It says Michael Evans, president of Alibaba Group.
We're developing through technology.
Oops, let me make sure I even got this screen share audio going.
ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean? That's where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So individual carbon footprint tracker. Stay tuned. We don't have it operational yet, but this is something that we're working on.
So at 1 billion customers, we're developing through technology and ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean? You want to say that's where they're traveling, how they are traveling, what they're eating, what they are consuming on the platform. So individual carbon footprint trackers, stay tuned. Anyway, my main comment about this whole thing though is I notice. Let me see if I can fix this screen back. Oops, that's not the one I want. Oh well, I can't get that part to work. But anyway, these the gasoline shortage is not a natural thing, but it's being blamed on a war. But yet they say we only get a small part of our oil from Russia. So why are we running out of gas in America? Which we are running out of gas. It looks like. It's there's things going on where places are having a harder and harder time getting the gas stations filled. Not to panic people, but these kinds of things look like they're going on. I'm not for sure, but the thing I do know is as people pay more and more for gas, you're going to see basically something like that happen after 9/11, where gas prices went up, and at first people could handle it, but then over a course of time you can't keep handling that sudden change of your gas being double the price it used to be. And to me, what it looks like is going to happen is gas could quite possibly get quadruple the price you had it just a year ago. I mean, during the pandemic, it got down to under $1 at some places, like right at $1. You could get gas for $1. Gas already is like 5 times, 6 times higher. But you can go, well, Chris, that wasn't normal. It should be about $2. Okay, $2, right? What is it right now? It's almost $6. That's almost 3 times the amount it was. Now you got to think, if you only doubled it back after 2001, the gas was only doubled, and it's already tripled. And we saw what happened in 2001. People started buying less. When people start buying less, well, what about the people who were making the stuff to buy? Well, if they got to make less because people are buying less, they lose their job. So that means there's going to be less money in the economy. And then if there's less money in the economy, that's even less things getting bought. Because now those people who just lost their job, they can't buy as much. So more jobs it's going to be a domino effect. That's what some people don't have the mind, to quite understand, is that there's going to be this great domino effect. And you already got people that are paying 3 times for gas what they normally would. And we saw what that little bit of just doubling it did. And now we're going to quadruple it. And I think it might even get higher than quadruple. I think it might go beyond $8. I mean, in fact, I think $8 a gallon. I think we wouldn't really avoid disaster. But I think it's going to be even higher than $8 a gallon. And part of that is they want to go to this whole system whether you want it or not, whether it's a good speed to do it. They just got their foot on the accelerator and they're just determined to have it, whether you starve or not. And I don't even know if these people are even thinking rationally. I mean, it could be they're just they got such tunnel vision. It looks well planned out, though. I mean, let's be honest, it looks pretty planned out. And I think they're going to hit you with a couple of other things. It ain't going to just be like, oh, gas went up. It's going to be, you got all these things going on at once, and people are going to be arguing what's causing all this wreckage in the world, with economics and everything like that. And they'll have several things going on. I don't think it's just going to be gas prices. I think it's going to be other things they just compound everything with at once and have all these different agendas going at once. And people will either feel overwhelmed or they'll be like, wow, that's too great of a conspiracy. You mean all these things, all these people are working, all these plans all at once. I just don't believe it. But the thing is, when you understand from the Bible that the Vatican, the Pope, the Antichrist, the Pope is the Antichrist. When you realize this is his system around the world and you see all these Catholics all over the world running this system, then it can start to make sense how they can coordinate it all. But if you're not going to, believe in the Antichrist, that is the Pope, and you're going to blame Donald Trump or Obama being the Antichrist or someone new, Elon Musk. Oh no, Elon Musk is going to be the Antichrist because people actually like him from both sides. You're going to run into issues. That's why I keep trying to stress that you got to explain to people that the Vatican's the Antichrist, not Donald Trump. Because up until then, let's team up with these Catholics because they're against Obama and we think Obama's the Antichrist. So we better team up with these Catholics to fight abortion. We better team up with these Catholics to fight the mandates. Even though their Pope, is pushing the mandates, pushing all this stuff. That's why you're never going to I'll have it up here. Maybe get to this other window. And so, it's like, Crux, Catholic magazine, papal vaccine campaigns offered punishments and rewards 200 years ago. Does it surprise you that Fauci, Catholic, CDC director, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but the one Trump appointed, all these other Catholics pushing this whole thing, all these Jesuits that run Pfizer, Moderna, Jesuit schooled. And does it surprise you that they'd be pushing this? But if you don't want to acknowledge that they're the Antichrist, you're going to get whipped into all this other stuff. You're going to just join this Catholic Church. You're going to be like, yeah, well, Trump must be good. He says he's fighting it. Even though, Donald Trump's the one who locked you down. I mean, he said, and he told you 15 days, all right? Told you 15 days, wound up being, he said 2 weeks, basically. It's kind of weird, though, the 15 days. Doesn't the Bible say something about judgment in 1 hour? Judgment. Yeah, Revelation 18. Let me pull that up real quick. Yeah, Revelation 18:10 shall stand far off for the fear of her torment, saying, alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour thy judgment come. And if you go from like that whole, biblical day equals 1 year, biblical hour would be about 15 days. So I always thought it was kind of weird that I always thought about that when Trump said 15 days? And why didn't you just say 2 weeks? Like the whole 15 days was just kind of weird to me. And I'm not saying that's what this means or that there is a connection. This is just what popped in my little mind, that this verse in the Bible, that mighty city, for in 1 hour for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And then and he tells you 15 days, and that's what would be, and like biblical prophecy, if you go that day to a year principle, well, an hour within that would be 15 days. And Donald Trump says 15 days, and then all this stuff happens. Now I'm not saying that 15 days is this. I'm just wondering if this was all said sort of like as a connections, because your mind does make connections, and just kind of like let hey, those who have an ear, hear this, and you catch that 15 days and you're like, wow, that's weird. 15 days, 1 hour, in 1 hour thy judgment come. And is this because judgment's about ready to happen? Because I'm not saying that this is judgment. I mean, this is maybe part of it leading up to it. But I mean, I think we all think there's something, big about ready to happen. Like you get that feeling. That's kind of why I just, and people go, man, Chris, why are you talking about the Bible so much lately on your shows? Because I used to just talk about the Vatican for 15 years, maybe 16 years. And it's like, well, Chris, you're talking about the Bible so much. And part of the reason why I'm doing that now is because I realized that I can watch these I can wake them up about pedophilia going on in the Catholic Church. I can wake them up about all this other stuff, but they will just go right back to siding with Catholics, joining up with them, like, well, Chris, they're going to fight abortion. So we got to back Trump to get these Catholics on the Supreme Court because Catholics hate abortion. And I'm going to tell you one thing that's going to probably happen with that mandate. That mandate, you're not going to get what you're thinking you're going to get out of it. I shouldn't say mandate, but I'm kind of getting ahead of myself in my thoughts. Okay, basically, if they say they might rule something to the effect, since it is Roman Catholics, and you're like, okay, they're going to end abortion. Okay, let's say they do, but it might not be to your benefit. It might not be for a good cause, because they'll end it, but it might be like, yeah, because we, government exists to mandate protections for life. And then they might somehow tie that into, that means we get to mandate vaccines. We get to mandate to protect life. Like, they might say something like, government has a mandate to protect life. So we're going to end abortion. And people would clap, cheer, yay, they're ending abortion. Because, they say they got a mandate to protect life, and they're going to protect life by ending abortion. And government's going to step in and stop it. But what they might try to do also is tie the mandate to protect life into mandating vaccines, mandating all this other stuff. Oh, we're going to mandate green, everything be green, everything be electric. Because, we got to protect life. We got to protect the world because, hey, if you're causing climate change, well, we got to protect life. We know climate change is dangerous. Therefore, we get to mandate everything to protect you. Just like we're protecting babies from being aborted, we're going to protect you from destroying the planet and ruining the planet for other people. And whatever mandate they come up with, they think is the best idea for the overall good, for the good of everyone. And it could even come down to, well, we think it's better to mandate a lifespan. Maybe you should only live so long, or maybe only certain people should live. And they're not basing it off of abortion anymore. They're going to they won't maybe try to do it through abortion. You may try to do it through other things. Like, hey, we got to have everyone get a certain injection because, we got to sterilize people. Certain, people get hit with the sterilization because, hey, we got to keep population at a certain range here. And I don't know. See, I just it's really hard for me to believe that these Catholics, after doing so much to try to take away gun rights, after trying to, because let's remember, they took the Bible out of public schools. That was supposed to be the primary reading book in schools. And in 1841, these Catholics started making deals with Democrat politicians to remove the Bible from public schools. And in 1854, they started doing all that. And I show that in the book, Pope or President, written in 1858. They detail that. They show the newspaper and all that. So we had the Catholic Church working with that. And one thing, man, I wonder if I even got this written down, because there is this interesting clip. Oh boy, let me see if I can have it written down somewhere. I got like 100 show notes. But basically, there was. I wish I could remember so I could just play the video clip of it. Because someone was reading from a book. It was Joggler 66 reading from a book about how it was like in the 1600s, you had like this like Catholic king that takes over this land, and they basically were allowing like the Protestants. Well, they were allowing the Catholics to take the Protestants' children away from them. And the Young Turks had the same thing too. Let's see here. I know people hate the Young Turks. I hate them more than anyone hates them. But because it had to do with taking Protestants' children away. Oh yeah, right here it is. They did this like 10 years ago.
Between the 1930s and 1970s, the Catholic Church and the government in Spain allegedly trafficked between 30,000 to some say 300,000 children.
It was 300,000.
So what happened is, at this time, Francisco Franco was the leader of the country. He was an evil dictator, as most of you know. And what he would do is, if he had anyone who opposed his views, okay, or criticized his views, he would target those people, and he would have the Catholic Church literally take these babies right after they were born and then sell them to Catholic families within Spain.
Okay, so, my point about this is, do you think the Pope knew about this? And what's odd, too, is, remember, the Lateran Treaty in 1929 reestablished gave the Vatican, made it a sovereign state, right? So in 1870, they had lost a lot of their power. They lost all their papal states. But in 1929, they get all that. They basically get the Vatican becomes a sovereign state through the Lateran Treaty. And here it is, just barely after they become a sovereign state, here is this event happening. So, but anyway, my point is, it's like the Catholic Church, the Pope had to know about this. This is going on. I'm pretty sure, they give all these reports, these intelligent reports back to the Catholic Church, the Pope. And he knew that this was going on. Did he say anything about it? He must have not have thought anything's bad about it and let it go on. Or he could have told, them, hey, this is bad. We don't do this to the Protestants. No. You weren't told that. No, he never stopped it. It's like with the Eustacia. I should probably do something on YouTube so I can show a few more. No. Actually, you know what? I know something better. Horrors, Ustasha horrors. Because the Ustasha was ran by Catholic clergy. And they were doing things that were way worse than the Nazis. You know, it's like this right here. They had like a competition to see how many people they could kill in the camps at once. And a lot of times, what it was it wasn't just Jews. It was anyone who was non-Roman Catholic, and you wouldn't convert, and this happened to you. And sometimes if they got you to convert, they'd kill you immediately so you wouldn't convert back. They'd throw babies up in the air, catch them on bayonets. And this is all your Catholic clergy and your Pope saying, because all that this was ran by the Catholics. So all the Pope had to do was say, hey, I don't want you doing that. Did you ever hear many clips, you know, from that time period where the Pope's like, stop it, guys, stop it. And he knew. In fact, the Pope even awarded Pavlik, who was the head of all this. He rewarded him. Pavlik, given him an award. So let's see here. Now I'm just going to kind of read this. Since the Roman Catholic Pope has been selected to be the top religious leader of the coming New World Order religion, the biblical false prophet, he must not be vigorously opposed by the Jews. Since the Jews consider Pope Pius II to be Hitler's Pope, the wartime image of that Pope must be rewritten. Okay, so someone's got a little futurism going on. Kind of ignore that. I shouldn't have even read that. I kind of know where they're going with this, but they're right about papacy being Antichrist, but let me find that part where it's got the reward. Okay, yeah, right here. It says, in 1941, the Nazis invaded Yugoslavia and Pavlik joined them. Hitler rewarded Pavlik by making him the head of the new independent state of Croatia. And then it's got down here, Pope rewards these murderers. Pavlik committed all these atrocities, but he's still expected to be greeted by both the church and British leaders as a prominent Catholic in the struggle against atheistic Bolshevism. Pavlik was also aware that Pius XII and his senior advisors held extremely charitable opinions of his militant Catholicism. The Pope did receive Pavlik. However, the British Foreign Office reacted in outrage, calling Pope Pius XII the greatest moral coward of our age. This is one strong statement. No wonder that the Vatican is attempting to discredit the British government. Can you imagine the British Foreign Office calling the Pope Pius II the greatest moral coward of our age? I think they meant 12. It is no wonder that the Vatican feels such a strong need to rewrite this particular Pope's history. And that same year, the Pope met with Pavlik. More than 100,000 Orthodox Serbian men, women, and children were killed by the Ustashi. In all, some 250 Orthodox churches were destroyed or turned over to Roman Catholic parishes and convents. Documents requesting and authorizing such transfers are now in the state prosecutor's office at Zagreb and Sarajevo, bearing the signature of Archbishop Stepanek. In February 1942, a Te Deum was sung at Stepanek's church in Zagreb, then the capital of Croatia, with special honors paid to Pavlik. And in a pastoral letter, Stepanek declared that in spite of the complexities, what they were seeing in Croatia was the Lord's work, and called on his priests to support Pavlak. And this is from Roman Catholicism by Boltner in 436 on page 436. That's where that quote comes from. So anyway, we can just see that, the Catholic Church knew about all this stuff. It's like the Pope really hasn't changed. You can't go join in with them. And it's like, the Pope knows about these atrocities, and people still keep joining up with it. And it's like, you just can't join up with it and think that, things are going to be okay. You can't let this leader lead your economic system. Like, oh, it's going to be okay that the Pope's leading the inclusive capitalism. So it did say Vatican. Where did the Pope go? I know I've looked at this before. Let me see here. Let me try something different here. It used to say it right on their webpage, though, where I didn't even have to look for it. The Council for Inclusive Capitalism with the Vatican, a new alliance of global business leaders launches. So why are all these business leaders? This is supposed to be just a church, but yet here's this big alliance with this church, and it basically, once you figure out the papacy is the Antichrist, the system of the Antichrist, the Pope is the false prophet. He's not only the false prophet, he is the image of the papacy. That's why they go, whoa, how will a Pope affect the image of the papacy? Or this Pope is this Pope, by doing this, is affecting the image of the papacy. That's because he is the image of the papacy. The first thing people think about is the Pope when they think of the papacy. That's why, and the papacy is the second beast of the earth. Second beast of the earth has an image that both speaks and has spirit, because they give it spirit. How do they give it spirit? They elect a Pope. That Pope, see, the Pope is not like, it's not like a singular person has to be Antichrist. It's like it's a singular office, but like the person they put up there, he's not like the most important guy. Like if like the Pope decided, hey, I'm going to start doing everything good, they'd kill him. Whoever those people running the Vatican would kill that Pope. They would not let him go. No, he's got to go. He's got to do a certain thing, and he's not allowed to do anything. He's just merely the image of it, and he speaks for this beast system. And if he was to ever not speak for this beast system, but was to speak for Jesus, or try to say the right things, he would die. They would kill him and put a new man who's gonna do that, who's gonna speak for the beast. That's what they do. It's like you don't get stuck on a particular Pope. It's just Pope, period. What they use the Pope for. They give him all these special abilities like infallibility. But if he was to ever like not go along with what they want him to go along with, they just kill him. So it's not so much like the person's important, it's the position and it's just the ideal. And it's because they basically make an idol out of this man that you are to follow. And that's why when he speaks, he can have these people persecuted. That's how he has saints persecuted. He speaks, and these people get persecuted. Because if he ever said, don't take those people's children away, if he was to say it, it wouldn't happen. See, by him even just being silent and letting it go on, or speaking and making certain things happen, see, that's how that image works for that beast. But it's not so much like, oh, he's the king and he's the one who's running everything, and he's merely the image to the beast. That's it, And I really believe that's how, in Revelations, how all that fits. Now, I wish I didn't have so many problems with my show today, because I did have things I wanted to share and say. But I know if my show goes on any longer, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to try to have everything arranged and do a better show. But it just isn't happening today. I just had too many issues. So leave it at that. Hopefully I give some people some stuff to think about later.